and final level of moral thinking. This is the level that we as educators should train our students to think on, have a personal code of behavior, and follow it. Mr. Esquith notes that this is the hardest level of thinking to attain and just as difficult to teach. He uses literature as a way to identify personal codes and ways they were followed. He mentioned a story from his personal experience of teaching about a girl named Brenda and a little boy. This little boy was walking home and got picked on by a group of bullies. A girl helped this little boy. The mother of the boy wanted to find out who this girl was to thank her, but was at a loss of how to find her. The next day, a woman came into Mr. Esquith's classroom to ask him about whether he knew anything about the situation. None of the students in the class claimed to be that girl. Mr. Esquith noticed that while most of the students in class talked about who it could be, there was one girl, Brenda, who kept to herself, busying herself with her work. When their eyes met, she shook her head, saying to him with her body language, "Don't say a word." Brenda has reached the 6th level. She didn't help the little boy out of fear. She didn't help him to get a reward or praise because she had pleased her teacher. Nor did she do it because it was a classroom rule or just because she was considerate of the boy. She did it because she knew in her heart it was the right thing to do and acted out accordingly.
As I prepare to become a new teacher, I'm nervous about meeting the standards of the reading fluency test. What can I do to be sure that my students make the best scores?
In Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire, Mr. Esquith emphasizes that instilling a love of reading should be a top priority. This will help increase our students' reading scores. I found a few suggestions that will be helpful in both elementary and secondary education that I plan on putting into use in my classroom. One of the most helpful hints that Mr. Esquith discussed in Chapter 3 of his book, How to Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire, is simple. The library. It's become a vanishing activity. By taking our kids to the library, they will be surrounded by people who share interests in reading and books. They can browse and make discoveries on their own that they can't find online. And they can interact with other readers. The second suggestion that I plan on using from Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire, because it would be extremely helpful with high school students, is to start a book club. It should be voluntary. This increases enthusiasm for reading and being involved in this group. You can meet before school, at lunch, or after school. Friendships are formed, teachers form bonds with their students, and everyone wins. That is why we're doing this right. It's for the right reasons. The third tool I plan on using is becoming my students' guide in reading. This is the common link to both strategies I just discussed. Even bright children need our guidance. It's our job to use our knowledge that we have gained throughout our life to put good books in the hands of our children. We may not be smarter than they are, but we do know more because we've been around more.
The students in my class have a hard time understanding how they should write a paragraph or essay. With so little time to cover this issue, I'm very close to giving up. What are some examples of strategies or activities?
While teaching, I found writing to be the hardest subject to teach. Oftentimes, I was ready to give up and move on. Had I not had requirements to meet, I might have just done what I was tempted to do. Although these standards are important and the skills needed to write a paragraph and progressing to the skills needed to compose an essay are important, it is necessary for us as educators to look beyond this and rediscover the importance and meaning of writing. Writing is a way of expressing the thoughts we have in our heads and hearts in a way that others are able to read them. Mr. Esquith mentions a few suggestions on making the writing process more fun so that students don't get bogged down in the process and are just able to write. One of his ideas is called Start Me Up Grammar. At his school, the school day officially begins at 8 o'clock. His students, however, are there and seated earlier than this, working on a grammar assignment. An assignment may include pointing out parts of speech in a paragraph, for example. The students in his class are working hard because they enjoy this foreign concept of grammar. Also, they know that if they complete the assignment during the school day, they won't be assigned to do it for homework. The second idea he mentioned in his book is called Essay of the Week. An essay of the week is a required short writing assignment that ranges from the serious to the silly. They are assigned on Friday and collected a week later, allowing the students to work over the weekend if they choose. It gives students the opportunity to balance work and play. In addition to this, Mr. Esquith chooses a few of the essays and types them up exactly the way he receives them. On Monday morning, instead of receiving a grammar assignment, the students read 2 or 3 of the essays from the previous week. Of course, the names are removed to avoid embarrassment. By doing this, the students are able to reflect on how to make their own writing better in the area of structure, grammar, spelling, and content. Mr. Esquith's third idea is the monthly book report. This helps his students learn time management while simultaneously improving their writing skills. His students read easy books at the beginning of each month. The children write a report divided into short sections, of which covers a different element of the novel: protagonist, antagonist, conflict, setting, plot, climax, denouement, and theme. Although book reports are not easy per se, Mr. Esquith comments that your kids will grow as readers, writers, and critical thinkers. The final idea listed in the book is the Young Authors Project. As a disclaimer, Mr. Esquith says that this project is not for the faint at heart. They are hard to pull off, take massive amounts of time and patience, and can be exhausting. Basically, each student is given a book at the beginning of the year to read. He lists a lot of suggestions when employing this idea into your classroom. First, students should write most of their books in class. He gives his students 30 to 45 minutes chunks of time, 2 or 3 afternoons a week. Second, he also suggests dividing the class into small groups of 2, 3, or 4 children who share their stories and edit one another's writing. Also, during the editing process, he encourages kids to use figurative language. Finally, once the stories are completely written and edited, the kids type them into the computer, making sure they leave space throughout the text for illustrations. When the books are ready to be bound, some teachers take them to Kinko's, but Mr. Esquith prefers binding them in class. Mr. Esquith notes that if you don't give up, writing just might be the key that unlocks a child's heart. It's about making connections and changing lives through the written word.